An apparent romantic gesture on an ancient Roman canvas. This morning, a recipe for outrage.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're looking at historical buildings that were desecrated either partially or completely by selfish, ignorant, or just plain brainless human beings.
The co-owner of the Dunway Building in Pacific Beach says vandals destroyed the historic lanterns that are difficult to replicate.
Number 10. Notre Dame du Haut. French for Our Lady of the Heights, Notre Dame du Haut is a Roman Catholic chapel found in eastern France. It was completed in 1955 by architect Le Corbusier. Renowned for its modernist architecture, the building was named a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 2016. But just 2 years prior, the chapel was the target of a destructive break-in that resulted in much public outcry. Vandals entered the building on January 17, 2014, shattering the only stained glass window that was signed by Le Corbusier. The window was irreplaceable, as the architect died back in 1965. And with this wanton act of petty vandalism, the World Heritage Site was never the same. Number 9. The Pyramid of Menkaure. The world-famous Giza Pyramid Complex consists of 3 main pyramids, the big one, suitably named the Great Pyramid of Giza, the middle one, the Pyramid of Khafre, and the smallest, the Pyramid of Menkaure. The latter has suffered extensive damage, and it doesn't take an eagle-eyed tourist to notice the gaping hole on the northern face. That massive gash came about thanks to a sultan of Egypt named Al-Aziz Uthman. In the late 12th century, Uthman ordered that the pyramids be destroyed, as he was convinced that they harbored secret treasure. But workmen found the effort of moving massive stones incredibly taxing, not to mention ridiculously expensive, so they basically just gave up. Number 8. Unity Temple. Even those who don't harbor an ounce of interest in architecture know the name Frank Lloyd Wright, perhaps the most influential American architect of all time. Wright designed more than 1,000 buildings in 7 decades of work. One of the most famous is Unity Temple, an Illinois church built in the early 20th century.
This is one of Frank Lloyd Wright's greatest works in his whole career, which makes it one of the greatest works of the 20th century.
Found above one of the building's entrances is the phrase, "For the worship of God and the service of man," written in bronze lettering. In September of 2010, 56 of the bronze letters were ripped from the wall, leaving behind mere indentations in the concrete. Thankfully, the letters were restored at a cost of $42,000, thanks to metallurgists at the Philadelphia Museum of Art. Number 7. Cliffords Tower. Found in the cathedral city of York, England is the York Castle Complex, and in this complex is an ancient keep called Cliffords Tower.
Cliffords Tower is definitely one of the most important buildings in York, and I would argue one of the most important buildings anywhere in England.
Much of the tower was destroyed in a 17th century explosion, leaving it in its currently ruined state. But that's not what we're talking about here. No, we're talking about an unfortunate act of graffiti that occurred back in 2010. Red paint had been sprayed onto the stone walls, bearing bizarre messages like "Stop Cancer" and "X-Hatch Implant Killer." This act of vandalism was traced back to a conspiracy theorist named Adam Blythe, who, according to his solicitor, quote, was convinced cancer was the result of babies receiving brain implants. He was found mentally sound and given 9 weeks in prison. Number 6. Troy. The ancient city of Troy is at the heart of the mythical Trojan War, which is most prominently described in Homer's The Iliad. While the historicity of the Trojan War is questioned, we know that Troy itself was real. That's thanks to the archaeological work of Heinrich Schliemann, who both found and destroyed much of the ancient city.
The site is first extensively excavated in 1870 by a wealthy German businessman, Heinrich Schliemann. He is so obsessed with the legend of Troy and discovering its treasures, he has his team reveal the ruins as quickly as possible.
Schliemann was not actually an archaeologist, but a businessman, and his inexperience resulted in catastrophe. Schliemann essentially dug straight through the ancient city, destroying its foundations and losing important historic information.
But Schliemann's excavations destroy lots of vital evidence. Archaeologists are only now piecing together the truth from the clues that remain.
To this day, there's a massive trench carved through the area, known not so nicely as Schliemann's Trench. One scholar named Kenneth Harl even joked that Schliemann completed the Greeks' work by razing the city of Troy. Number 5. The Dunway Building. Go to San Diego, California, and you'll find the Dunway Building, an old brick structure dating back to the 1920s.
The Dunway Building has been an icon here in Pacific Beach for decades, and when it was vandalized, the co-owners of the building say it hurt.
The building was constructed by a young pharmacist named Sam Dunaway, who ran the city's iconic Dunaway Pharmacy. The location changed hands numerous times throughout the decades, and by 2023, it was being used by numerous companies as a retail space.
This building is very much part of the fabric of our family
and the fabric of this community.
We made it part of our mission to continue the legacy of the Dunway Building and to make it that much more part of the community.
But in January of that year, the historic structure was hit by vandals who proceeded to wreak some havoc. They not only scattered glass, tiles, and cinder blocks across the sidewalk below, they also destroyed a number of irreplaceable glass lanterns.
You can see these light fixtures that have been broken down.
Melody reviewed surveillance video and believes the vandals somehow got on the roof and did the damage.
The owner, Melody Noble, said the damage was heartbreaking to look at. Number 4, in El Paraíso Pyramid. Dating as far back as 3500 BC, El Paraíso is an ancient archaeological site found in central Peru.
The pyramid, which was built before the Incas, stood 6 meters high.
Spanish for the paradise, El Paraíso is believed to have been a religious hub featuring a complex of pyramids. One of these pyramids measured 20 feet high, and according to property developers Alisol and Provelans, it was on some seriously valuable land.
Peru's coast is dotted with ancient cemeteries, pyramids, or religious sites, which are seen as inconvenient in the rapid urban expansion taking place in the country's capital.
In June of 2013, the companies bulldozed the ancient pyramid and set its ruins on fire. This act drew an outcry of criticism, and the police were forced to intervene and prevent further destruction. The act was said to cause irreparable damage to a page of Peruvian history.
This is La Huaca Puquiana, an archaeological site that is over 1,700 years old. But as you can see, it's in the middle of the city. There are hundreds of sites like this all over Lima, and authorities say their greatest challenge is how to preserve them.
Number 3, the Second Temple of Artemis. Regarded as one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, the Temple of Artemis was found in modern Turkey and earned renown for its size, featuring more than 127 columns. But this was actually the 3rd iteration of the Temple of Artemis. The first was destroyed in a flood, prompting a second to be constructed around 550 BC. This one lasted about 200 years before it was destroyed in 356 BC. This time it wasn't from water, but fire. While some modern scholars have questioned the story, the burning is typically attributed to a Greek man named Herostratus. Legend claims that Herostratus burned the temple down in a desperate attempt at becoming famous. Number 2, Babylon. Ancient cities don't get much bigger, literally and figuratively, than Babylon.
The ruins of Babylon south of Baghdad. It's one of the UN's World Heritage Sites. The name literally means the door of God. These bricks are over 4,000 years old.
The main hub of ancient Babylonia. Babylon was once considered the largest city in the world, being the first to reach a population of 200,000. Its ruins can be found in modern-day Hilla, a city about 50 miles south of Baghdad. Unfortunately, this became the site of Camp Alpha during the 2003 invasion of Iraq.
In 2003, the US Army set up its Camp Alpha here, bringing with it soldiers, helicopters and tanks, and even dug trenches under the archaeological site.
Many bodies, including the United Nations and the British Museum, condemned the American military for their treatment of ancient Babylon. They contend that military vehicles crushed brick pavements, that personnel tried stealing decorative bricks from the Ishtar Gate, and that entire areas were leveled to make helipads and parking lots.
Military positions and made a helicopter landing pad. Their trucks were also very heavy. They locked themselves inside the city, and we don't know what damage they did inside.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1, the Roman Coliseum. You're just asking for trouble when you open a historic building to the public.
The outrage was immediate, including from the Italian government. On Twitter, Italy's Minister of Culture calling the carving a sign of great incivility.
Finished in 80 AD, the Coliseum stands as the crowning achievement of ancient Roman culture and architecture. And it has been relentlessly attacked by tourists. Carving initials or phrases into the ancient concrete is a common occurrence, although it comes at a steep price, a $15,000 fine and up to 5 years in prison. Some just want to be memorialized.
I was taken aback. It was to see someone doing this, and you know, you could speculate on where they're from. I don't know if there's been any confirmation of where these people are from, but
others, including an English tourist who carved his and his girlfriend's names into the wall, aren't aware of the significant penalties. So as much as you may be tempted, don't carve your name into the Coliseum.
This video appears to show a man using keys to carve into an icon of world history. the Coliseum. The man silent but smiling when confronted.
You may be in Italy a lot longer than you had planned. Have you visited any of these historic sites? Let us know in the comments below.
These walls were once impenetrable. But water, the whims of a dictator, and war have put parts of Babylon at risk.
Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.